Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, the one, the only Luke Irvin.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Guys, today we are reviewing the Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad. And I'm very excited. We've been talking about this for a long time on our channel. And Luke, I know I've seen you sharing stuff on social media as well. Real quick, before we dive into that, can you let our listeners know a little bit about you?
Yeah, of course. My name's Luke Irvin, based here in Central Arkansas. Most kind of know me as the app guy. For the past decade, I've been developing apps primarily in the Apple ecosystem. So love to do that, but I love film as well. Film's been a big part of my life as well. And so this year I finally pulled the trigger and jumped into the world of YouTube. So youtube.com/Luke Irvin, where I'm kind of mixing some things. I do film critic related things. And I'm also started a podcast called Take 25. Take 25 is cool because I basically interview other creatives from Arkansas and help share their stories. And then I also joined as a co-host on the Agents of Mace, where we exclusively talk about Marvel related content.
It sounds like the same stuff that we do, Daniel.
There's some crossover in the Venn.
There's some
diagram.
crossover.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, that's why we brought you on, because we've been seeing some of the content you've been making, and we're like, man, we'd love to have him on and kind of pick his brain and see what he thinks about some of these things. But before we do the Suicide Squad breakdown, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. That way you're up to date on all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as all the cool content we have at 2 for 1 Studios. And of course, if you didn't know, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located on 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year. All right, guys. We're doing the Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. It just
not to be confused with Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Sans the.
Which I don't think you've still seen it yet, have you, Daniel?
No.
Yeah, you're never going to watch it now. I tried real hard, Luke, to get him to watch it before this one, but I just knew it wasn't going to happen.
No, I mean, it looked, the first movie was as bad as it looked in previews, and obviously that was confirmed by all the reviews. And I'm a busy guy, I got stuff to do, so I just can't watch all the movies. And if there's a movie that's like objectively bad, probably not going to be high on the priority list. But you're kind of right. I mean, if I do watch it now, it's probably going to be like get some beers, make fun of it, watch it.
I would love to do that if you ever want to do it. I mean,
yeah, I would too. Because I mean,
look at that.
We'll get to it. But this movie, I liked it. So yeah, I'm sure the first one will seem just that much more pale in comparison.
I'm sure it will. Well, kind of speaking of whether we like it or not, the first thing I kind of want to do here, guys, is get our initial impressions. Take a good 2 to 3 minutes max in here and kind of talk about, hey, what were our thoughts? What were we expecting? Did it kind of meet those expectations? And then we'll kind of go from there and kind of break down some of the things we really liked about it, X, Y, and Z. Luke, I want to start off with you. What did you think about the Suicide Squad?
The Suicide Squad. All right, I've been thinking about this all day, because I'm really curious to see where you guys fall in line. I'm going to try to break this down and go into some quick reasons of why this happened. Did I like this better than Suicide Squad? Yes. Did I like this movie? Unfortunately, no. There were a few factors that came into play, and this is where things get tricky with being a film critic, especially getting into like the Twitter film verse. I don't know if you guys are deep into that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is one of those, like, I'm not to a level yet where I can get like early screeners or anything like that. So being in our world, being in social media gets tricky. So it's hard to get on Twitter because you fall in line with, especially if you're in film Twitter, most of these are going to get early access and kind of do their initial reactions. So this is one of these cases where all I was seeing was just, this is amazing. This is the best thing I've ever seen. James Gunn is a genius. He did it. And I did really want to see this film. So seeing that shot my expectations up high. And then when I watched it, I was just like, are we watching the same film? I did not think it was that good. there are elements in this are very good, but we'll dive into this later, I'm sure, because I want to hear your reactions. But for me, this fell short.
Dang.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
Daniel?
No, that's good. That's good. Because I loved it. I went in. Yeah, I saw the reactions and stuff as well. So I had decently high expectations, honestly, just because it was James Gunn and it's a team up superhero movie, and he has nailed that in the 2 outings he's had with that kind of concept and that kind of project. And so I thought, well, there's no reason he can't nail this. And then kind of when I started hearing the whispers of like, this thing is like incredibly gory. You don't know who's going to survive. It's lots of like kind of bait and switch. Like, to me, that just made me more excited because I was like, okay, this seems like it's James Gunn that we got with the Guardians movies with even less restrictions potentially for what he can do with these characters and what he can do in this world. And man, I thought he pretty much nailed it. I really liked the pacing and the formatting, how we jumped around in time a few different times, or he used kind of, like I said, that bait and switch of who you think we're following these people, but we're not. And yeah, I thought the character arcs were really good. I ended up caring a lot more, and there was a lot more heart in this movie than I was anticipating. I was kind of anticipating more, a bit more just action film, and I felt like we got some heart to some of the characters that worked for me. There was a couple moments that I would classify we got into like a little cheesy, a little corny. In terms of the heartfelt moments, I thought there was a couple that we can get into that. But overall, I just felt like it was the humor really hit for me. I really loved Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I thought she was amazing. I thought John Cena was a standout. Idris Elba is kind of just Idris Elba in some ways. He's like the Idris Elba we get in a lot of movies, but it's also Idris Elba, so it's good. So yeah, I just thought, I don't know. I really like this movie a lot. I think for me, it's the best DCU film I've seen by far. Like there's just such a large gap between this and anything else I've seen. And
making my head hurt now, but go on.
No, I do. I mean, I liked Man of Steel, but no. I mean, Man of Steel is not as consistent as this. Yeah, I don't know.
That's not true at all, Daniel. Go on. Sorry, I'm not trying. I never interrupt him or Luke.
No, it's fine.
He's triggering me right now.
Yeah, I like it.
Hey, I'm getting triggers as well. I'm going to hold myself back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Donovan,
don't hold
your
back
turn.
on this
Your turn.
pod. You just lay it out, Luke, when you feel like it. No, I mean, I'm kind of somewhere a little more in between you. I might actually lean a little more towards Daniel. I thought the movie was very entertaining. There was, of course, when the trailers released, but even before when they announced the name of the movie and they announced that James Gunn was attached to it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm in, I'm watching it day one, but all these other things.
Well,
and then,
to be fair, that means nothing. Your day one into anything with the MCU or DCU.
I know. That's what I'm trying to say.
Just to preface that for the listeners.
I know I'm always there, right? And I feel like I kind of had this expectation of the movie as like, okay, this is not going to be this movie. I already know is not going to hit what Guardians 1 and 2 did, just because James Gunn has that trauma background, right? With Lloyd Kaufman and, Toxic Avenger and Romeo and Juliet and all those movies. And this is like him really getting to pull back Slither and Super 8 or Super, not Super 8, Super, and kind of combine it with some of this more, bigger blockbuster action and the kind of superhero flavor here. And I knew part of the reason why Guardians 2 falls flat in the humor is that he solely wrote that movie. Mm-hmm. And the first movie, someone else, I can't think of her name, it's a female. She wrote like a big chunk of the movie and the structure and everything else. And his humor is kind of hit and miss. And I was like, man, that coupled with him, like no restraints, huge budget, rated R, it's going to be kind of this. I know it's not going to be exactly for me, but I know for some people, I had a feeling Daniel would like it. I knew that, it would really hit home with him. And, there is probably more heart than people probably expect in the movie. And of course, there's characters you fall in love with that you probably shouldn't have. And I thought it was a fun, entertaining time. There's a lot of filmmaking things that kind of bothered me. But I'm here for it. It's infinitely better than the last Suicide Squad movie, even though I've seen it maybe literally 8 to 10 times. I've seen it a lot. And I'm curious to kind of dive more into it. But
Yeah,
no,
and I'll say I've seen this movie twice since it came out, which for me is a big deal.
right.
Now, yes, it is on HBO Max. It's not like I'm going to the theater twice or something like that.
Right.
But and I will say the second time I saw it, my wife was with me, and she really liked it, and that is not so, like I had to convince her to watch it. Like she was not up for it at first, and she really enjoyed the film, which I was not necessarily expecting her to enjoy it as much as she did. So sorry, that was kind of an aside.
No, you're fine. I will real quick. Let me add this before I start getting into more of the stuff. Is you're saying that it's the best DCEU film? It's by far not the best. It's
live
maybe like
act. Are
no.
we talking? I'm talking. Okay, when I
I'm
say
talking,
that,
I'm
I
talking
mean
Man of Steel to now, and this,
Yeah.
and this what's called this
Totally.
DCEU. Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's no, it's not. It's not the best one. I mean, I think probably still Man of Steel could be the best one. You said it's not. You said consistency is the most consistent. Like, I think even on a filmmaking level, like not structurally, but just even in terms of like cinematography and that kind of stuff, Man of Steel is pretty consistent. Like, it doesn't break. There's not like weird editing choices. There's some weird editing choices in Suicide
I disagree. I thought the pacing in Man of Steel was weird. I didn't like the
Squad.
flashbacks.
Maybe the pacing. I'm just talking about this bare bones editing. Like there was a shot when Harley Quinn gets on the bus in this movie, and we're jumping ahead here, but gets in the bus in this movie in the beginning, and it's like literally maybe like 7 frames of her back. And when it happened, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like that someone actually. I know you didn't, but I was like, someone actually edited that. And it blew my mind. But there's some things like that to the movie that I thought were just not very well done. And then other things, of course, were well done. But let's kind of break down the movie real quick. We kind of hit initial reactions here. Luke, what's things you really did like about it, though? What's things that stood out to you? Like, okay, I can latch onto that at least.
So some of the chemistry in the characters, I thought was well. And that would probably go into like one of my favorite moments. Surprisingly, I was very hesitant with John Cena. I'm not a huge John Cena fan. He's not the best actor, but I thought he did decent with Peacemaker. So there's the one sequence with him and Idra's character when they're kind of going back and forth and going off each other of like who can oust the other person. I thought that was brilliant, and I laughed at that moment. So seeing that kind of chemistry really worked. Getting a little bit of nods to other DC things was kind of cool as well, but that just kind of had me itching for like, why aren't we getting that kind of stuff? And Margot Robbie is great. I mean, she is Harley Quinn. I'll put her as a higher pedestal, even though Harley Quinn in this film was really bad, like really weak. Not bad, but in the sense of like she's just a side character. Like they could have done a little bit more with her, but she owns that character. So I love seeing her as that character. These are probably the highest moments for me.
Okay. No, I mean, real quick to kind of piggyback off that first, I'm really going to like you on this podcast because you're right. Like, it's weird that we've had 3 Harley Quinn appearances and we've only had 1 solo Superman movie. Mm-hmm. I don't get it, DC. I don't get it. But
Superman does not have boobs and money.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sorry, I had to just clear that up.
That's right. But it is Henry Cavill, and he's pretty hot. So,
he is,
Cavill,
but
whatever his name is.
It's anyway, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
Let's get into the socioeconomics of why men have more money than women and drive the economy, and that boobs sell better than dicks. What can we say?
Right. So no, you're right.
This episode.
Well, what did you really like about this movie, Daniel? Besides the whole thing, of course.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the cast of characters just. I agree that the chemistry between the characters I thought was really well done. And I really like how they took their time to get even into the backstories of these characters. Like we didn't even get Ratcatcher 2's, backstory, or an Idris. They had that kind of moment in the bus. I mean, we're like halfway through the movie at that point, like probably the end of Act 2 or like something like that. I couldn't pinpoint it exactly in my head right now. So I like that we like took our time in getting to that. I liked the whole the bait and switch of here's all these like other characters, which some of them are from the previous Suicide Squad movies, and some of it's like what's his name, Jordan Peterson or whatever, and so it's just like
SNL character.
Yeah, I didn't say his name right. Pete Davidson. Like, all these characters, you're like, oh my God, is Pete Davidson really in this movie? And then he gets killed. And it's like that kind of stuff really worked for me. I like that bait and switch. I loved I loved most of the musical cues in this film. I thought a couple times I was getting too much music, or like he's really just kind of copying the form of Guardians a little bit without the diegetically motivated, like with at least with Guardians, like there was a reason we kept hearing music, and it was because Peter was listening to his Walkman, and so it kind of felt more natural to the world. And this time it was like it kind of felt like we would get music sequence back to back with a different music sequence, or we'd like change songs in the middle of it and it would completely change. But I thought a lot of them were really good. I love the intro thing with like the we're just like the I love the titles in the intro and how they like the office people dancing around, and it just kind of it felt like it did a good job of catching up people that had never seen the films before to what they needed to know. While also, I guess, paying homage to what came before. So yeah, I thought that like I said, the character moments really worked for me. I liked Starro a lot. I thought he was a cool villain, and I liked, a lot of the gore and the stuff they did with him. I liked that he wasn't like just pure evil, and I liked kind of his last line when he died about, I was happy looking at the stars. And again, I think really the humor mostly all landed with me. I mean, I know you guys had some critiques for Harley. I felt like I really like what they did with Harley, because there is this thing, like my wife, we've been watching it, and she's like, it's like, what's Harley's power? I was like, she's crazy. That's kind of her power. Like she isn't like an A team in terms of abilities. Like, even if you think about it from like, well, why would they send? I mean, what can Harley Quinn do that someone else that isn't crazy, that is acrobatic and good at killing people, can do? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like her craziness and like her unpredictability that makes her so formidable, I guess. But that's not someone you send in on like a high. I understand why she was a part of the cannon fodder team, basically. And I really liked. I felt like what she played, the part she played in the movie, felt separate but significant enough. Like she was still influencing the turn of events, even from afar. Yeah, I think I'm rambling a little bit, but those are.
I can tell you real quick why Harley Quinn was in the movie. It's because the first one made $745 million.
Oh no! Like, I mean, like she need like if you're doing a Suicide Squad movie and you don't. I mean, I guess you don't have to have Harley, but I mean, she wasn't the most recognizable character in the cast.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And big, real quick, not to pick. I'm sorry, Luke. I want to pick on him for a minute. To kind of want to reverse this a little bit, engineer it. I don't think you've seen Birds of Prey or Suicide Squad, have you?
I have not. No.
Yeah. So part of the issue here is that, like, if you look at her character arc in this movie, like, the first movie is about her breaking up with Joker. And, basically, it's about breaking up with him, but also kind of like being tied to him and basically choosing her own path. The second one is literally about, okay, I'm going to diverge from this guy defining who I am, and I want to kind of chart my own path a little bit and X, Y, and Z. And this movie literally is, I'm going to find a guy. And then, it's just like, it's a small little baby thing, but it's about the same thing every movie in a way, I mean,
her character arc, she doesn't have honestly, Harley's kind of comic relief and like a plot device. I don't know if she really has a character arc. I mean, like,
no, yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
She has that one moment where she's talking about like boyfriends.
Studio. That's what I'm saying. Her character's there to appease the studio. That's why she's really there, not because they actually have something really magnificent to do with the character. Which is not.
I hear that, but I think it worked. I guess is what I'm saying.
It's a huge issue. You're kind of cutting out a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were, at least on my end, you were. I was saying, I hear what you're saying, and I think that's valid. I think to me, she still worked for her scenes in the movie. I thought there was none where I'm like, why are we here? What are we doing? Why is this, kind of thing? I think because honestly, she's really good at that role too. Like she steals the show pretty well. And I really liked what they did with kind of her like Disney princess motif stuff, like where she's like, I thought that worked really well, and it was just visually entertaining and worked for a character.
Now, quick side note, I read today the whole sequence of her getting the guard and getting the key, like she did all of that. That was all of her, which I was really impressed by.
That's cool.
No, it's a really cool little thing there. She seems like she has fun in the role, and she's also very the physicality definitely translates from her life. Yeah, I mean, real quick on my end, I really love the Ratcatcher 2 and Bloodsport scene in the bus. That's my kind of stuff. There is no, I'm going to get you out of here, and he like wipes the tear away. That's like textbook Donovan scene right there. And there's a lot of things like that I really like. I love Polka Dot Man. I love seeing his mom consistently throughout the movie.
Amazing,
brilliant.
Which, by the way, I just now realized in the dance scene when they're in the club, like when he's dancing, it's all his moms around him. I did not catch that both times. I didn't like. I saw a screenshot. I was like, "Oh, that's all his mom."
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and I really enjoyed just like Bloodsport's how his suit worked and how his how his the weapons worked and everything. And I liked even the Peacemaker and Rick Flag stuff, and it was really devastating for me to see Rick Flag die. And I'm going to kind of throw this back to Luke now real quick. So I think my favorite character, obviously, I like Rick Flag because he's actually the only good guy in the movie. And I like seeing Bloodsport because I'm always a sucker for, a father trying to, at least in some way, even through a surrogate daughter with Ratcatcher 2, or even with his own daughter, do something to kind of fix these relationships. Luke, did you have any favorite characters or any favorite moments with these characters?
I think that's part of the issue I had was I was getting very nitpicky with the characters. There's just a lot of things and decisions made that just overall didn't do it for me. I thought I was pretty hyped to see Bloodsport and Idris Elba. And yeah, he's super cool. But this is going to go a lot of my issues go deeper into like the whole like DCEU as a business of like the struggle I have with them. That's why I have issues. Like I would have loved more backstory, especially with his tech. Like, okay, I was like, okay, this is interesting. They go like this nano route of like building out weapons versus traditionally in the comics, he's got this relationship with Lex Luthor who gives him tools to get these kind of weapons. It would have been so much cooler to see that kind of stuff. Peacemaker, I'm not very familiar with, so it was cool. I think I would actually say Peacemaker is probably ended up being my favorite character.
Yeah. And well, lucky enough, you'll get more of him next year. In the
we can go into that later. Very disappointed by Polka Dot Man.
Why?
Why?
I just didn't. I just wasn't sold on the whole story they were doing with him. I did not find it amusing. I did not find it funny. I was very annoyed by it. I didn't get the whole mom thing. Like none of that worked for me. Looking into like kind of more like the traditional Polka Dot Man is so much more interesting than this kind of like changing up to go like this more of like, oh, I'm, this it's alien that's in me that's kind of creating this. It's like, it's like I feel like we've seen that stuff before. Like that's just to me, the biggest thing is like this is too much James Gunn. That's why this didn't work. It's too much James Gunn that really fell flat. I don't care anything about Ratcatcher 2. Like seeing, the backstory there and the father and who
Taika Waititi.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but then it was too sappy, and I was.
Yeah, I thought right there, I thought it was weird having Taika in that role because he's now become such a, when I see him, I automatically kind of start giggling like he's, oh my God, it's Taika and he's a funny guy, and you bring with you all the past characters that they've played, and he doesn't do anything super funny, so it's kind of a weird choice to have.
Very weird choice, yeah. And, another thing that just threw me off so much in this film was the general. It's the actor who basically does the same kind of role in Quantum of Solace.
Oh,
so anytime he was on screen, I was like, where's James Bond? Like, I'm expecting James Bond to show up.
Yeah.
The Thinker was interesting, but could have utilized him a little bit more. I just feel like it was lacking like some more depth in some of these characters.
Well, it was definitely also like, hey, we don't know what to do with these characters.
Yeah.
One, and then James Gunn comes in and says, hey, here's these characters that no one cares about. And I'm going to kind of put my own spin on them. And because I know who these people are, then you should also let me do them because no one else does. And they're like, I don't know who that person is. That's a great idea. But thing is, people know who those characters are. Like we know who those characters are.
Yeah.
And so doing that, you are kind of alienating a little bit of some of your audience, but it seems like it kind of paid off for them in some way, because I mean, who would have thought they would have seen Polka Dot Man in a live action movie?
Sure.
No, I'm guessing that then is not Polka Dot Man's actual abilities and or origin from the movie. That's inaccurate in the movie, I guess.
If you want to go like traditional comic route, he's one of the first criminals that Batman and Robin face.
Yeah, I knew he was a Batman villain.
Yeah. I don't think we ever know where exactly he gets his suit, but his suit is more electronic, and the dots are kind of connected with the suit, but they all do different things. So like his gimmick is when he pulls the dot off, it becomes something else. And so it's kind of like, it's almost like his utility belt. So it's kind of cool to see like, what's this dot going to do, pulling him off and doing all these different things.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a budget restraint, being able to go into that route of like,
it wasn't. You have
I think it's also
$1 million. You have no budget.
It's also, that's kind of what Idris Elba does, but it's with
it's kind of like they shifted it to.
I mean,
his character.
And I mean, as someone that isn't, I think maybe a big difference between me and you guys in just coming into this movie too is that I do not have a lot of emotional attachment to the DCEU because it has disappointed me so many times. I've kind of just been like, man, fuck, they're gonna get their act together when they get the act together, or they won't, and they'll just keep making shitty movies. But I'm not gonna like be emotionally invested into these worlds until they do start putting more care into it, basically. And so I think coming into it, I'm just more like, I want a fun superhero movie with DC characters. And to me, I thought, I really liked Polka Dot Man. And honestly, I thought I like the actor for one. I love that the main thing I know him from is from The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight. Being the guy that what's his name, captures to interrogate the crazy guy. Which I'm also like, man, he's getting typecasted, isn't he? It's like a crazy person. But I thought he performed really well for kind of like, and this is, I mean, like, my wife works in like clinical mental health field. So she's working with kids that are like manic and like dissociative disorder, schizophrenia, multiple personality, all, the gambit of like big deal mental health issues. And to me, like, even like, okay, when Polka Dot Man and Harley are arguing in the office about Milton and it's going like I felt like this could be a real argument between two people in like a psych ward so easily. Like it felt so real to that world to me. And I just thought, like I said, I enjoyed the mom thing. I thought that was a really funny gimmick, and like it was kind of a bittersweet but hilarious thing when he died. I mean, I just thought that was a great little moment, him getting stepped on.
As soon as in the trailer he says, "I'm a superhero," in the trailer, I'm like, he's gonna die in the movie immediately after he says that line, and then of course he died in the movie. Real quick, I want to interject, Daniel.
Go ahead.
I know what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. And again, keep in mind, I really like this movie. Like, and I honestly don't have a huge connection to these particular set of characters. I do have a connection to the larger DC universe. And I do think that, and to one point Luke brought up was the fact that like Bloodsport's technology is kind of more nanites, right? If you look at the MCU in comparison, we didn't kind of get that kind of technology until roughly Infinity War, Black Panther kind of era. So we had like a built up in technology throughout the universe. But now we're kind of X amount of movies in to this DCEU. We really don't have any direction as to what the main storyline is because there's not one. We know that.
Right.
And now you have James Gunn coming in, who is from the MCU, and he has Guardians, which Star-Lord has the mask that comes on like nanotech. And now Bloodsport's tech does that. So there's all these things that are building up. And I know you don't, obviously, I just got you to watch Shazam and Aquaman with me recently. But me and Luke, we're here like day one, we're there because we wanted to see the same thing the MCU is doing, but in the DCU, because I think DC has better comics and better cartoons and everything than Marvel. And I'm a diehard Marvel fan. Spider-Man's my favorite of all time still. But I know the capacity that DC has, and they're just not doing it. So it's like this, heartbreak every time. And again, I like the movie, but when all these little things add up in a larger universe, obviously it hurts. And I know we're going to get a little bit of that fixed, hopefully, with The Flash coming out next year, but we'll see what happens. I do want to ask a few more questions here. Is there any deaths that surprised you? I mean, I know for me, the opening, I was like, oh, wow, we're going to kind of lay waste to this whole team here. And it was kind of sad to me to see Michael Rooker go. Because I actually kind of cared about this character for some reason in such a small span of time.
No, I loved it because I swear to God, I haven't looked to find it, but I swear that like when this got delayed from COVID reasons, I feel like James Gunn had a tweet that was like, guys, like Michael, like he's a big Michael Rooker. I mean, he's like in all his films, and he's like,
yeah, they're like best.
This
friends.
guy is like. This is the performance of his life. It's amazing. Like, I'm pretty sure he tweeted, like, trying to be like he's good in Guardians, but wait till you see him in Suicide Squad. And so I was really going into it like, I mean, I guess he'll be here. And then when he died, and it was like, no, he did great, but it's also like, it's hilarious that James Gunn said that.
Yeah. Luke, what about you? Any death that surprised you other than Rick Flag? I'm kidding. No, Rick Flag surprised me. What about you, though?
Potentially, a lot of them really. I mean, and that's kind of what set the tone weird for me, because it took me 2 days to finish this movie.
Wow.
I started this because they released it a day early because this hit theaters like on a Thursday. So it was late Thursday night. I started watching it, and I don't know. There's something about the opening sequence and then all the deaths right away that just didn't vibe. That kind of like, I think that really set the tone. I don't know what I was expecting there, but seeing characters I was familiar with, and all of a sudden it's like, you're gone. And some of them we didn't even get to really see what they could do, which was very unfortunate.
Right.
But then some of them, like you said earlier, Polka Dot Man, very predictable. There's a lot of moments in this that was like, yeah, that you're not going to make it. Like you could just kind of line things up. If anything, some of the very first characters we got to see, it would have been nice to see more from them a little bit, at least in terms of what they can do. Because some of the characters I wasn't that familiar with. I think Boomerang like probably hit everyone the hardest.
I was so shocked when he.
Yeah,
and actually that one got me. I would say out of everybody, I kind of suspected Rick Flag to go because he's the only good guy, and that's how James Gunn's going to roll it.
Right.
When Boomerang died, I went, "Damn, Jai Courtney came back for this 10-minute sequence, like basically."
Yeah.
Which I mean, because he kind of got the shaft. I mean, a lot of these actors got the shaft in the first movie. Obviously, it made a lot of money,
right?
But it wasn't critically well received. And that's a big thing too. There is the fact that in the first movie, Suicide Squad, not a lot of people die in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lose like the El Diablo, and we don't lose Killer Croc, but I think it's El Diablo, and then maybe Enchantress, who ends up being the bad guy.
Right.
So we don't really lose anybody, and so we just
Game of Thrones on this one, like
100%. And that was expected too, because James has been quoted about having stakes in his movies, like specifically with Michael Rooker's Yondu and Guardians 2, and not bringing him back for future movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I expected that, and it did suck seeing Rick Flag go though. And for like a half a second, I was like, "Oh shit, he's coming back!" in the after credits, and then of course they pulled one on us. And Peacemaker, I was pretty convinced that Peacemaker was going to be a prequel, and now it looks like it's going to be a sequel.
Yeah, they Black Widowed us.
They did. Real quick, guys.
I want to go. I will say the things that didn't work for me were some of those cheesy moments, like specifically when Idris Elba's Bloodsport's daughter is like, "That's my dad. That's my dad." I was just like, I've heard that. I mean, like, how many times has those lines been used in that exact kind of situation for that moment? Like, I get it. Like, even if I was planning this, I would be like, yeah, it's going to be this "that's my dad" moment, but I would write different words. Just like something like that's not just those 3 words in a row twice. Yeah, I just thought that didn't work. And I agree. I thought the rat catcher stuff. First of all, I didn't see the needle in his arm the first time I watched it when they were in the bus. And so I was just kind of a little lost. I was like, I guess he died from being around rats a lot because they're dirty or something. God, and then I was like, oh, there's a needle in his arm. Okay.
And you liked it. That's like that you're like, I still like this movie.
I mean, it was like she had a tragic backstory with her dad. I didn't really need to know it was heroin for it to work. So anyway, those are the things that I thought could have been better. And honestly, there are places where James Gunn, I think, has shown some weakness in the past. Like, sometimes he gets a little too corny with his heartfelt moments.
Yeah. Before we kind of get into just a few more things real quick, I do want to hear from our sponsor, the Geek Squared Show. And they have some great content. And of course, give them a listen, give them a like, give them a subscribe. and we'll be back here in 1 second.
Hello and welcome to the Geek Squared Show, your new favorite pop culture podcast hosted by two Canadian cousins with glasses.
My name's Emma.
And I'm Tilly.
Join us while we take a deep dive into our favorite movies, TV shows, video games, and more.
From major hits to cult classics to things we've loved and cherished since we were just bespectacled little geeks hanging out. We are 8 eyes,
4 brain cells,
2 cousins,
1 amazing podcast.
And you can catch us every Monday when we release new episodes to start your week off with something nice.
You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe.
All right, and we're back. And of course, check out the Geek Squared Show. Give them all your love and tell them we sent you. Anyway, guys, I kind of want to break down a little bit more about the plot of this movie. Of course, these characters are brought together by Amanda the Wall Waller, and she hires a group of criminals from inside a prison. Don't hire them, but she basically blackmails them. If you don't do this, I'll blow up your head. And you have to go to Corto Maltese and stop Project Star, which we, of course, kind of mentioned earlier. That's this giant alien starfish. The plot pretty much is pretty simple, right? It's these soldiers on a mission. I know that James Gunn kind of compared it to more like a Vietnam kind of themed movie. Of course, we're in the jungle, X, Y, and Z. Did the plot work for this? I mean, it really feels like we're on this journey here, really just to see the characters interact, to see these characters. How are they going to die? That seems like more like the fun of the movie. So I got a question. If we're making a sequel, then like what's the next kind of thing here? Do we do this another team, and how are these characters going to die, and what are they going to learn? Because like they don't really have these huge character arcs. They more like have character moments because there's so many characters in it. You can't really have these huge transformations, you know? So what's your thoughts? Luke, what's your thoughts on a sequel and the overall plot of this movie, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those unfortunate things. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, they basically Black Widowed us with the traditional end credit type things. And unfortunately, when you kind of step away and look at it, it was pointless to make this movie. For this to have been successful, it really needed to be a series. If you're looking in the sense of like they can utilize all of these different characters, build it out into a series, go on all of these different missions, pick the right people that you think would fit for the mission. Do they care about that? No. I mean, these are people that are locked up. So in the end, yeah, they probably don't care. They're like, yeah, just stick the bomb in his neck and throw him out there and we'll see what happens. But they could have at least utilized that to build out some more depth into the stories of these characters, make you care about them a little bit more, and actually build up to something even bigger, whether that's leading into multiple shows or even leading into future movies. And this, like, it makes no sense. Like, yeah, they could do a sequel, but like, are you going to do the same thing again? If you're doing the same thing again, like, what's the point? Like, I think core fans that are picking up on these issues, like, they're not going to care. It's going to be hard to care.
Well, I got a couple of things for that. I think you're right for the most part. I get where you're coming at, but on Daniel's side here, I think James Gunn did a really good job of, with the short amount of time with this many characters. I did find a lot to love about these characters. King Shark, Polka Dot Man, Bloodsport.
King Shark. We haven't brought up King Shark. Oh my God. He's the new Groot, guys.
No,
he's the new Groot.
He's not as good as Groot.
People.
Horrible.
No, but he's the gory Groot. He's the gory Groot.
Sure.
And my wife was like cooing at him by the end of the movie. And that tells you something.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I do see that there's this path that they could have taken. Like, let's say that we had these superhero movies and you have a few villains that maybe survived those movies. And then you take those villains that survived their said superhero movies, and then you put bombs in their necks. And now you already have attachment to these characters, maybe a redemptive arc for them. And then you start offing them off. Like, there's a path here to make a even stronger Suicide Squad movie. And I like the idea of having like a TV show and giving them episodes or even their own little mini series and actually really care about them. And then when you know, oh shit, they're going to the Suicide Squad, maybe my character is not going to make it out alive because I spent 8 episodes with Polka Dot Man or something like that.
Now, to be fair, I think what you're kind of wanting them to do with Suicide Squad what they failed to do with the freaking Justice League. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, really, ideally, they should have been doing this with the Justice League the way Marvel has been doing it with all of their Avengers and all the blah blah blah.
Yes.
And so, but I think that's even from a financial it's like, all right, we're not gonna take the time to do individual movies for these giant superheroes like fucking Batman, you know what I mean? But we will for Bloodsport. Like, I don't know, there's no executive in the world that would greenlight that, I don't think.
His name is Kevin Feige. That's the executive that would greenlight something like that.
Yeah, but like, I don't know if Kevin Feige would spend 10 years building up, you know, the Bad Avenger. What is the Bad Avengers team?
Talking about the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts?
The Thunderbolts. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, technically, he has spent 10 years building up to the Thunderbolts.
Well, okay, you're right. It's not a fair comparison because Marvel's just been building their world and lore consistently well for 10 years.
Yeah.
I think I hear what you guys are saying.
I get it. I know what you're saying.
I think there is. I agree. The perfect version of this movie is coming out on the back of a strong cinematic universe. Yes, totally. But with what he had to work with and with where we are, which is a very mismatched, jumbled, inconsistent, weird universe that's pretty divisive too. Like, even amongst hardcore fans of like DC fans or something, it's pretty divisive, it seems.
Right.
I think he did basically the best of what you can do within those circumstances.
No,
and
I agree.
I do think, I mean, you're right. Starro, like, the whole plot is pretty basic in terms of like, go defeat big thing. But I thought they were also very clever about using things within that to like I really liked the whole Peacemaker turn. I liked that he started turning on the team really late, and it fits so consistently with his character in terms of being a fascist and you know, not wanting to let this information get out. I thought that all worked really, really well. And even what I think you do with a sequel with this is it's going to be like the Suicide Squad versus Waller is probably what I think. I mean, Waller is the biggest villain in this film in a lot of ways. And I think especially with like Idris Elba, with them not releasing the information to the public, which I thought at first was like, that's kind of weird that would seem like the natural progression of that. And it's almost kind of this weird, like, well, we're not being good guys, but we're not being total villains either kind of thing. I think that's where you go with this. It's going to be them trying to like hunt down Bloodsport, or Bloodsport putting up team together again to take down Task Force X or whatever. So it'd be like the Suicide Squad versus the Suicide Squad or something like that. But I think in the end, they had to work with what they had to work with. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure James Gunn would have preferred to go back in time 10 years and fix the DCEU first. But for what he had to do, for what the mission that was given to him, which was make a good Suicide Squad film, I think he did about as good as he could have done.
No, I'll agree with that. I mean, hey, if I'd made this movie, I think I would have considered it a win, you know, like, you know, personally.
I think the issue is like, we can't expect this movie just because it's made by a competent filmmaker with a clear vision and, you know, that stuff to fix the problems of the past. I mean, it still has to work with the problems of the past. Yeah. Right. And I think, you know, it sucks, but it is what it is at the same time.
Yeah, I like agree on those levels. And I totally am okay with DC bringing in Gunn to work on this. If I got to get to the core of the issue, is that I needed to leave having the same feeling I left with Guardians of the Galaxy 1, not Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That's the issue.
To be fair, I was bawling in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, I was an emotional wreck in that movie. I do think Guardians 1's a stronger film overall. Yeah. But I think Guardians 2's got some magical moments in it.
I actually came away a little dissatisfied from Guardians 2, and only after rewatches I really love it. But I kind of see what you're saying, though. I think we didn't get we're the motherfucking Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, you said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy moment. Yeah. I always had motherfucker into that line when I say, because it just fits there. Right. Yeah. So like, I agree. Like, the finale wasn't nearly as strong, and I don't necessarily just expect these characters to keep hanging out with each other even after this movie, right? Like, I wouldn't expect that. But I think this was funnier than Guardians 2. For me, I think the humor hit better for this than me on Guardians. And like my big issue with Guardians 2 was like half that movie was dialogue scenes. And that I think was not present in this film. I feel like we got most of our information from either really fun like montage sequences that were like, you know, put to music or just fast paced, or just kind of diegetically through the action. So
I wish when I make a movie, I could just put some like $1 million song behind it to make the scene better, like James Gunn can. But I will say, like, that's one thing I kind of had an issue with. There's other things I kind of want to talk about real quick, but I do have this sensation or feeling that, yes, so the movie itself, of course, is this like hodgepodge of like kind of different genres and these different characters, and I get like a Frankenstein's monster. But one thing that kind of does bother me sometimes is like the inconsistencies of the type of cinematography. Sometimes you have this like beautiful them walking in like this overexposed rain, and then you have like King Shark ripping the guy in half and lightning striking almost like a Zack Snyder shot. Yeah, something like that. But then you have these crazy, you know, other types of things that are just like, you're like, that wasn't really well thought out or whatever. You know, it just seems like kind of chaotic comparatively. I know it works because the movie is kind of crazy, right? It has this kind of weird, like we're going to zoom in and then we're going to pull out and all these weird different things in it. But I do think I think there's some merit there, like in Guardians 1 and 2, where someone is saying, hey, we're going to pull you back a little bit, Gunn. And it kind of can hit him in a bubble, I think works better than him just completely. Like, I don't feel like they told him no to anything. Now, I could be wrong.
Well, I bet that's because they got hired for this when he got fired from Disney.
Sure.
So he was probably like, you give me a blank check or no. So
right.
Yeah.
And he earned that. He earned that blank check.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, so I get that. I do want to talk a little bit about some cool things here. One, I really liked the Bloodshot. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. The Bloodshot, the Peacemaker rivalry. That sequence is incredible. And the accident, it's kind of dark as fuck too, because they end up killing.
I thought that was amazing.
I was like, holy all these people that were gonna help them.
Yeah,
and at first, when I first watched, I was like, did Waller was this like her trying to like trick them into killing these people or something? But on the rewatch, I was like, well, I guess I don't know. It's like their communications get cut off or whatever. And they just tell him he was captured. I don't know. The reason, I feel like the setup for why they killed them all and it was like the resistance, I thought that was maybe a little weak, but I thought it was really funny. And I agree, like the competition, the back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I love the moment where, you know, Bloodsport goes through the building. It's like the ultimate superhero landing.
Yes,
and of course he does what he says he does what Peacemaker said he could, where he shoots in between his bullet. That's incredible. That's really awesome. Sweet. That's pretty awesome. So, like, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in here. I mean, like, even the Starro little baby face huggers coming out like a flock of birds.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I love the dance sequence. I love them, like, Polka Dot Man cutting up. Even though it does kind of feel like, I don't know, these characters are being free for a moment. And even
Shout
though
out to K-Flay.
Yeah. No, there's some good stuff in this movie that I really enjoyed. I did think, like you said earlier, Daniel, that there was no, like, big grand finale. I did think as soon as she got that spear in the first act of the movie,
that was nice. Yeah.
Knowing that Starro was the bad guy, I was like, she's going to pierce through his eyeball at the end of the movie. I immediately knew that. I did like visually how it happened. Like I thought I was going to go in, like, I want to be like an emotional wreck, or like my brain can't comprehend, like see an eye being pierced. Mm-hmm. It sounds disgusting, but it was so like pleasing to the eye, no pun intended.
It was very aesthetically pleasing. Like it looked like the ocean, and like even like the blood vessels looked like, you know, like aesthetic, like they really colorful and like just kind of like magic, like this weird it didn't look sinister, I guess, or like objectively gross until like the rats started like eating through like the blood vessels.
The way that Weasel runs is like the funniest fucking thing ever.
God, Weasel in general, like even when they're introducing people and Rick Flagg's like, Weasel, like he like says it with this kind of like like, oh my God, this is Weasel. And then him drowning, like I thought that was hilarious.
It's great.
That was perfect.
That's all great stuff.
And then him waking up to go like terrorize more children.
Yeah, I mean the movie's pretty dark. I mean these characters, some of them get to live, and obviously, you know, they're not really great people. Yeah, well, I'm glad we talked about it. Is there anything outstanding that we didn't mention that's, you know, on the tip? I mean, there's a lot. We didn't talk about really King Shark, I guess. He's just this big dumb character that says things and does kind of cool things every now and then.
Yeah, I really liked King Shark, man. I thought he was just lovable and funny. And Sylvester someone said something like, "Wow, I can't believe they found a role that's actually worthy of Sylvester Stallone's acting ability." And I know
he's an Academy Award nominated.
I know. I didn't say it. I just repeated it. Okay. So I thought it's like, you look at this movie in Guardians, like, okay, James Gunn said we need a Groot. Who's going to be our Groot? And they did this. But I thought he was really funny. I thought the heartfelt moments with him worked pretty dang well. They were just funny. The friends, like, no, he's like, "Would you eat your friends?" And Idris Elba's like, "Yes." And he like looks at everything. He's like, "No." He just like says the opposite word. Right. I thought that was great.
I know, Luke, you didn't like King Shark too much, I guess.
It just, again, like, and this is the problem, is like, the whole opening and everything kind of just sunk me down. And again, this goes to the struggle of staying away from everything. I think some of the best moments for King Shark were all revealed already in trailers or in special release sequences. So that kind of brought it down. I mean, Sylvester Stallone, like, he did great in that. But again, this goes into the struggle. Too much Gun. It's like, clearly you see, like, okay, this is like this version of Groot, who's also kind of like the Hulk mixed with them. And
yeah, he's the Hulk mixed with Groot. That's a great.
Yeah, and it's just like, I was just kind of like, okay, all right, that's cool. But
I think there's a knock of originality to it, for sure. Like, it's not completely original, just because he even just functioned in the story like Groot, as like comic relief,
exactly,
but then also like childlike heart.
And this is one of the bigger known characters for DC comic fans, so that's what brought it down as well.
Now, there's also typically a hammerhead shark in the comics.
Yeah, right.
Well, I was gonna ask, is he? I mean, is he? I'm guessing he's not as dumb in the comics, or is he? Is he more like highly intelligent, or like, can he talk more normal?
He's not as dumb as the one we saw in this movie.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
He's not like, the thinker, but he's not as dumb as.
Well, yeah. And I'll say Peter Capaldi was a perfect thinker. Man, he
was
like, at some degree, it felt like he walked out of Doctor. Like, he could have been a Doctor Who character, like in, like, not the Doctor, but a different character in Doctor Who.
Right.
But I thought he was great. The one other thing that bothered me just slightly as like a storyteller is like Ratcatcher's like final moment where she's sending all the rats. The flashback there, I just felt like it's kind of a cheap storytelling move to add significance to a moment as it's happening, versus like being able to call back to a moment. Like, if that's, and I get it, like, it would have been weird to find a way to work that specific line into like the other backstory stuff. Like, I don't know how you fit it in necessarily.
It could have totally happened while she's talking about
in the
bus 100%.
You're right, it could have, but so I think it would have been more effective if we had that moment earlier and then we call back to it, versus being like, here's this other moment I didn't show you before that adds a lot of significance to this.
No, I 100% agree. As someone who's like, I almost brought this up earlier, but someone who's like, I live and die by how they kill the bad guy at the end.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about momentum, and it's about pacing and music and delivery and all these different things that kind of add into it. And it's a cool moment, but I did think, oh man, like, it could have been perfect.
Yeah,
if they had set it up. It could have been perfect, and it didn't have the same punch as You Said It Yourself, Bitch, we're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly.
That's a perfect moment.
Oh my God. I just got chills. I just got shivers. It
is. I mean, cinematography, music, the way he says it, everything, even the build up. I'm getting chills too, Daniel.
I know.
Yeah. I know. I really am. But I guess the last thing I want to talk about here, and this is really more about what Luke and I are saying here. I think either today or yesterday, James Gunn was asked about, hey, would you be interested, or do you think it'd be a cool idea to make Justice League versus Suicide Squad? And we do know in the past that he was offered to do Superman, and he chose to do Suicide Squad. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he was offered that initially when he hopped over, and he said his response. This is not really Suicide Squad related, but he said in his response, well, he goes, I work at DC, and I don't even know who Superman is. Like, I don't even know who's playing Superman. I don't know what they're doing with Superman, and I work at DC. So it kind of makes it's just this point that me and Luke are bringing up is like they have no fucking clue what they're doing over there.
Mm-hmm.
And just the idea that they wanted him to do is like a James Gunn superhero movie that doesn't automatically mesh in my head as far as the kind of character Superman is and the kind of director James Gunn is. Like that makes me think they're like, oh wait, we got a successful Marvel director. You want Superman? Like just kind of like here's our most expensive, potentially. Well, I don't know. Batman may be actually potentially more profitable, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Still, it's just kind of like it just screams of like people in charge that don't actually know what they're doing in terms of comic book world.
To your point. Sorry, real quick, Luke. James did also say that he would have done a Batman movie if Matt Reeves hadn't already been working on his Batman movie. So that's also interesting. So what are you saying, Luke?
A lot today. I was kind of pondering on this in regards with just the kind of lack of leadership there. But why Gunn? Why not Jon Favreau? That would have been the first person I would have gone after
for Superman.
For anything like just in terms. Not so much for Superman, to get them thinking accurately, to get them on the right path to success.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they would love that. I think that Favreau he's having the time of his life playing in the Star Wars sandbox.
Right,
yeah, so I mean,
I think Disney was like, here, take Star Wars, so no one else, takes you away.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be hard.
Pretty much, yeah. He's probably so tied down with Star Wars, and he can't do anything else.
Well, it seems like him and Filoni are like the new creative directors of all Star Wars things, which
100%. Yeah. I mean, Favreau is he's the godfather of the MCU,
Yeah.
Like, Kevin is the architect and Favreau is the godfather. No, I mean, it does suck. I mean, I guess one more question. Luke, what's your most anticipated now, or if you have one, DCEU film coming out?
I mean, it's gonna be the Batman. It's gonna be Matt Reeves. Batman is everything to me. Like, you don't see it now. When I can eventually move and get my office back, I will show you my Bat Cave. It is going to be fantastic. But Batman is so important to me. So that is highest on my list for sure.
Yeah, no, that trailer is next level.
Oh my god!
And my goodness!
It's everything that I think me and Daniel talked about it way before him. And I was like, if they should do a Batman, they should do like Seven meets Batman, and then they did it. And and like I think it's incredible, and I'm super excited for that movie.
Like I sometimes forget. No, I mean it's the same thing. I mean, I'd honestly look at you puzzled if that wasn't your answer, Luke. So good answer. It's for one. I'm like, what else is even confirmed to be coming out? I guess other than
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2. Oh god.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, boys.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Aquaman and the Indiana Jones of the Last Crusade. Yeah. And then I guess the Flash, which I guess is a big question mark. I just think this. I sometimes I forget that this movie exists and it's coming out just because of all the COVID delays, and it's like it's been years since we've seen like anything new or whatever. We go like months and months and months without hearing anything, and so like sometimes I remember I'm like, oh my god, and sometimes I even like a month ago like watched it again because like I forgot about that film, and that trailer is just perfect and
it's amazing.
I can't wait for that film. I mean, like it feels like that's the next true iteration of Batman since. I mean, now no disrespect to Batfleck, he got shorthanded by other people that were not him. Yeah. He did well in the role, in my opinion. And there's some really cool Batman moments. But as far as like a true iteration since Christian Bale, like a new Batman that can kind of capture everything, like the Nolan series did, man. It looks. I can't wait. Can't wait for it.
No, you're right. I mean, I think it was a year ago this time we covered DC Fandom, and when the trailer dropped, it looks pretty special.
I think it was 2 years.
No, it was a year ago. It was last.
It was during the pandemic that they released the trailer.
Yeah, that's why they had the Fandom, because it was, it was like last summer it happened, roughly. Okay. Yeah, it was a year ago. Okay. But I will say the Flash, even though I don't like Ezra Miller as Barry Allen at all, even though I thought he was better in Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's not not my Barry Allen. Of course, Michael Keaton's coming back. We are seeing Batfleck come back, which is pretty cool. We have Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom. We have Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, which I love Shazam. I think Shazam 1 could be the best DCEU film. It Man of Steel are like doing that to me.
question at the end for you.
Yeah, and then of course we also have Black Adam, which will have the GSA come into play, which Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. That's like next level hype right there. But anyway, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I was curious on that. I meant to ask earlier. When you go into DCEU, are you including all DC films? Like, would you really put those into the EU? I count. Started at.
I count Man of Steel. That's DCEU. Like, okay. I don't count like no Christopher Reeve, no Nolan, no Tim Burton. I mean, in a second, the Flash will kind of include all this stuff, but I wouldn't consider that. I still won't consider Tim Burton's Batman the DCEU even after the Flash.
Okay. I was on you to that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
Eventually, I'll probably get on Letterboxd and try to rank all DC. I think it was like 45 films.
Yeah,
and try to rank.
I'm working on. I think I've ranked the DCEU. I haven't worked on all 45 of them. That'd be a hard task.
Yeah, it's a difficult task.
It would be. Well, Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
You can write into bit.ly/2for1mail. I feel like we had a great spectrum of opinions on this film. Where I'm pretty high on it. Donovan's kind of middle of the road, and Luke's wrong. So it's a really good mix. And so let us know other reasons why Luke is wrong. If you want to write in bit.ly/2for1mail, you can let us know what you think.
And if you can't hit us up at our Billy, of course, you can always leave a comment in the comment section below, youtube.com/2for1studios, place where you consume all the content in all the best way possible. Of course, if you can't go there, go to 2for1studios.com. Guys, we always recommend subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot. And Luke, one more time, plug all the things you have going on in your life.
Yeah. Primarily go to youtube.com/Luke Irvin. You can find right now, that's where I do my film critic reviews and my podcast Take 25. And then you can also search for Agents of Mace pretty much everywhere. It's another podcast that I do that in reverse of this, what we've talked about today, it's Marvel-based content. It's really fun.
It's awesome. Really small world. Elisa Kinsfodder is I work with her husband and have known him for a long time. 10 years. So very really cool dude. Shout out to Mason. He won't watch this. So
awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
I hope to have
great.
You on here again in the future. I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff coming out in the next year, in the next couple months, next couple weeks, so we can talk about what ifs around the corner. Maybe we can get you on there and talking about some what if pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty psyched for that.
Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you again so much. Again, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
I am Luke Irvin.
And we have spoken.